afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the Grand Boulevard Coalition. I'm your host, Bomani Obadelli. The Grand Boulevard Coalition is a coalition of community partners located in the Grand Boulevard community that's focusing on underage drinking and drugging. When they say drugs, specifically marijuana use in the Grand Boulevard community. Our boundaries are 51st Street on the south, 35th on the north, west to the Dan Ryan, east to Cottage Grove. Some of our community partners, in fact, all of our community partners are community non-for-profit organizations that are located within the community. We have Greater Harvest Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Eric Thomas. We have Recovery 2000. Miss Izetta Walton is the executive director there. We have Centers for New Horizon. Miss Crystal Hamilton is the executive director of Centers for New Horizon. Another one of our partners is the Institute for Positive Living, Reverend Maurice Coverson. We also partner in the business community with the Bronzeville Community Clubhouse, Mr. John Scott. We partner with schools in the community, Wendell Phillips, and Perspectives Charter School. We've also added some new partners, a little bit outside of our area, but in the Dearborn Homes community. And we work with the Dearborn Homes LAC president down there, Mrs. Carol Wallace. And we also partnered with the 2nd District Police Station, and we have a new commander there. I believe it's Commander Walker. Commander Boyd, I'm sorry, strike that. Commander Boyd of the 2nd District is our partner. And last but not least, well, I'll say this, last but not least, the Alderman of the 3rd Ward, Alderman Pat Dowell, who is our civic and community partner. Oh, okay, I thought we had a caller on the air, but this is a sound room. So anyway, this is a live show. Join us in the conversation, 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060 is the number you can dial. This is a live show. We are talking about drugs in our community, a drug-free community. Just to bring you up, and I should have started off with that. The Queen of Soul, not having to do anything with drugs or anything like that, but the Queen of Soul. Just a moment of silence for Miss Aretha Franklin, who certainly, down through the years, have blessed me with some great music. As I remember as a child growing up, listening to my grandmother and mother play Chain, 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 and You All I Need to Get By, and Rock Steady, Baby. You know, those are, you know, some great, bring back some great memories. And so I will be forever grateful to Miss Aretha Franklin, the King of Soul. Yeah, all right, so back to the issue at hand here. This is the Grand Boulevard Coalition, 312-738-1060. This is a live program, and we're talking about drug-free communities. Well, in the news you saw today, early this morning, I saw, which was bizarre, 70 people had OD'd on opioids in one community, not in Chicago, but in a community in another city. Was really strange. I mean, they said that 70 people were in a park, you know, yesterday evening, and they were all in. This is just amazing. I'm just, and the United States. I'm not going to mention the city, but it's just so alarming and disheartening. 70 people OD'd off of heroin mixed with fentanyl. I don't know the necessarily the status of the individuals who were taken to the hospital, but can you imagine something like this? This was not necessarily any kind of festival. It was just a neighborhood community park, and I guess that's where, you know, individuals go to use drugs. And which brings me to the point, you know, with talking, and it was some of them that were young. I think there were individuals as young as 18 years old. And it goes back to a discussion that I've had on the show before, where we talked about the level of parental consent when it comes down to young people, allowing them to indulge in drinking. And even I've had parents, people that I know, adults, associates, people that I know, say that they allow their children to drink with them, and smoke marijuana with them. And well, I'd rather have them do it in the house with me than do it somewhere else. At least I can watch them. But I think you open up the door to a bigger problem. A bigger problem, I would say. I contend, and by many studies have contended, that marijuana is a gateway drug, and it leads to other things. And which also I am a bit concerned about. Though I think for tax purposes and the decriminalization purposes, I personally, this is not the opinion of the Grand Boulevard Coalition. My opinion, I'm leaning towards the legalization of marijuana because, number one, I do think that the state needs revenue, and hopefully it wouldn't lead to the use of young people who have more access to it. I think there probably needs to be a study done, but I see we have a caller. Caller, you on the air?
Yes, sir. I'm saddened to hear that this is your last show for this period, and of course for Aretha Franklin and my best.
Well, wait, Ray. You said you're sad that this is our show on this period. What are you talking about, man?
Didn't you just say that this is your last show?
No, I didn't say it was my last show. No, don't put that. We got quite a few weeks to go. We'll be back with you, man. No, I was just talking about, maybe you misheard me, as I was talking about the Miss Aretha Franklin. That's all. But no, this is not our last show.
Oh, okay, thank God. Anyway, listen, my favorite song is Respect.
Oh, yeah.
That lit up everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, men, women, young people, teen, everybody. But I wanted to say this about the marijuana. The 76 people that, overdosed, guess what?
What?
76 more in the same park tonight.
Well, Ray, we haven't had...
Here in Chicago, it's going to happen, and you know it's going to happen. And until it happens, then the politicians will jump into it. Other than that, they don't care. Otherwise, they'd have stopped this a long time ago. But that's all I have to say. But I'm glad that this ain't your last show, buddy.
No, it's not our last show, Ray. It's not.
Call you next week.
All right, thanks, Ray. And I just want to add, Ray, I'm not certain. We haven't had mass overdoses in Chicago in quite some time. I will say that even though the heroin usage and opioid usage among citizens in the city is the numbers are kind of catastrophic. We just haven't had mass overdoses in the community. And I think, and speaking of that, Grand Boulevard Prevention Coalition Grand Boulevard Prevention Services is going to be having an opioid conference coming up, and I'll have more information about that next week. We got another caller. Caller, you on the air?
Good evening. How you doing, Grand Boulevard?
Good evening. How are you?
This is Auntie Paula calling. I ain't talked to you since last season. Welcome back again.
Thank you, Paul.
God bless our Aretha Franklin. She couldn't have said it no better. Respect. R-E-S-E-C-T.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean to me. Absolutely. She is very well going to be missed. I grew up with that lady and all the Temptation Spinners, all of them. But she's in the big heaven in the sky. But let's get back to the situation you're talking about, drug-free communities and this heroin that you're talking about.
Yes.
That's one more reason to bring the recreational marijuana to the city of Chicago. Now, I just came back from Las Vegas a week ago, and they legalized recreational marijuana. The crime rate is going down. Years ago, it used to be if you go to marijuana, you're going to go to something higher. Now it's the opposite. If you go to marijuana, you might get off all that heroin.
You think so?
They need to legalize it. Somehow they've already... Yes.
You really think so? Here's my deal, Paula.
Absolutely.
Here's where I'm concerned, right? I'm concerned with young people, right? Do you think, now listen, I agree with you to an extent. I'm leaning towards the legalization of recreational marijuana, but I'm concerned about young people having even more access to it.
Well, I'll tell you my opinion on that, sir. half of the crimes in the city of Chicago are because of marijuana. Somebody going by trying to get a little dime bag. I think if they legalize it, it will stop a lot of crime. It won't completely fix it, but it might help it. If a person could go somewhere and get themselves a little something, and go feel good about themselves instead of going around the corner and get some poisonous heroin, like you said, I think it would help. Yes, I do. If a young person, it don't matter if they're 12 years old, it don't matter if they're 90. If somebody wants to get high, they're going to get high. Give them something that's recreational, that's approved from the government. It'll get us out of hock in Chicago, and I believe the crime rate might go down a little bit.
Okay, well, I you know what, Paula, I'm on the fence on it, but I think I will say this to you, and thank you for your call, Paula, by the way.
You're
Great
welcome,
call.
sir.
Thank you. I'm on the fence on the issue at this point. All right, we got another call. Caller, you on the air.
First, before I make my comments, I'm going to say this to you. Go Cubby Blue.
Yeah, right. Go Cubs. Hey, man. You know it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm a diehard, and you know that.
Oh, man.
But listen, I just want to say this. Number one, I'm not no big fan neither of marijuana. I mean, I don't even allow it in none of my buildings. I mean, you could go outside because they have tenants that don't want to smell it. They don't even want to smell cigarettes. But again, that's everybody's preference. But I just heard a comment is just so crazy. Every comment he makes, he puts the politicians in it. Just like Paula said, if people want to get drunk, get high, they're going to do it. They've been doing it for ages. They've been doing it before I was born. I'm almost 70 years old. So they've been doing it quite a long time. Now, he also made a statement there going to be some 70-some people tonight.
I don't buy that. I disagree with that.
They're smoking K2. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And another thing, how will a politician, I guess he wants the politicians all be at this magical place where he says going to take place, and it's going to stop it. It won't stop it. Just like Paula said, if people want to do something, people going to do it. If you want to kiss a woman, you go and kiss a woman if she allow you to. Right. So again, if you go to choose to get these things, that's what you get. You're going to get what you're looking for. But again, there's no way, heck and high water, that I could blame it on a politician. What happened up in Connecticut, people gonna find it, people gonna do it. So how do you stop it?
Well, I will say this though, as he talked about the elected officials here banned K2 last year, banned the sale of it. Because they found out that it was mixed or laced with rat poison or something that contains close to rat poison. So
yes.
So that would be one attribute to the elected officials here. K2 was banned. So I think what happened in Connecticut, I didn't want to say the city, probably wasn't more of an OD than it was poisoning.
Right.
Poisoning,
right.
But I've heard stories about that K2 down in Miami. I mean, It's got people. I don't know what's in it. I mean, it's supposed to be.
Yes, it's interesting. But listen to me. There's people know that it's K2, and they still going by it. I don't understand. They laying in the street barking like a dog. But again, that's what people want to do.
Yeah, because people want to try anything. But hey, listen, I appreciate your call, man. Go Cubs.
Let me get
Take
out
care.
there so I can hear your response.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Well, before we go to the next call, I would just say this. I disagree with the first caller about the politicians. And as I said, 40 or 50 people ODing in Chicago. Even though I do think we have an opioid issue here in the city, and I think there are a lot of different organizations that are coming together to try to work on and solve it. But we haven't had mass overdoses in this city in a long time. We've had them, but it's been a long time because there's been more treatment available, more education, as we're doing at Grand Boulevard Prevention Services and Coalition, to educate the community about the uses of drugs, underage drinking, and smoking marijuana. And now we've even evolved to adding conversations with the community about opioid use and abuse of opioids. But we got two callers. Let's try to get to them. Caller, you on the air.
Hello?
Yes, hello. How are you, caller?
Okay, I just like to say, how will the people profit from the marijuana? Because I'm a senior citizen. I remember when alcohol wasn't legal. Okay, they made alcohol legal, and they're making money off it. People dying with liver, pancreas. Okay, then lotteries was created by Afro-American black people, and they took that, made lottery, and make big money. How come they, if they're going to make marijuana, how come they can't, some of these boys on the street selling these drugs, give them some jobs in selling the marijuana?
Well, I mean, perhaps if they legalize it in a state, which I believe at some point, I truly believe, you asked the question, caller, how do we benefit from it? Well, here's how I can see how we could. I've told you about my concern about it. I'm really concerned about young people and have young people having readily access to it more than they do now. And so here's to answer your question specifically, you tax it. You legalize it, and in other states that have legalized marijuana, they've used the money to help homeless. They eradicate the level of homelessness. So the first caller talked about, or I think it was Paul that talked about crime going down. Perhaps it would. One thing I know you do, you decriminalize it so you have less people going to jail for selling it because you can go to the corner store and buy it. And so if it's taxed, then the government will get some resources, and perhaps half of the taxes can be used, I'm just saying, for example, could be used for treatment, could be used for homelessness, and it could be used to do some other educational to help deal with some of the antisocial behaviors in our community that we face. So those are some positive sides of it. I think on a negative for me, I'm just concerned about young people having access to it, like with liquor, right? Like with alcohol. You know, they do tapping. They go up to guys on the corner and say, excuse me, sir, would you go in and buy me a fifth of this? You know, or a pint of that, and that concerns me. And even when it comes down to the tobacco papers, where they pass a law that you have to be 18, but there are young people who stand outside of convenience stores and stores in our community asking adults will they do it. And I got to be honest with you, I never do. And I almost start lecturing some of them, and then they get an attitude with me, and you know, we get into we have this negative discourse. But I mean, it's just, you know, listen. That's my concern about the marijuana legalization issue, right? However, again, I do think at some point we need to look at it. Now, I'm going to talk from the non-for-profit standpoint of this, and then looking at government and how, you know, we're in debt. You know, we don't have money to pay all of our bills. Perhaps, you know, like other states, like Colorado, I think California, and I know Colorado for certain because I've kind of studied it, and they haven't showed a spike or increase of usage among young people, but they've shown, man, that the state has really took in a lot of money, and you know, they're helping to eradicate their homeless problems. I've been in Colorado, and trust me, they have a skid row right downtown. There's nothing like I've never seen before in my life, and I was just like, wow. And even in San Diego, the same thing. You know, that's one thing we don't have. I know we have folks under Wacker Drive, but just open airs of poverty, people sleeping out in the streets in downtown. It was just really disheartening to me. But you know, and I don't know, you know, what the circumstances of the folks being homeless, but those are just some ideas that I have in my mind. I am not pro or negative of it. Like I said, I'm somewhere on the fence. I'm concerned more about young people having access to it, but I do think something needs to be done. We got another caller. Caller, you on the air.
Yeah, good evening. I just wanted to say, you missed, there's two main reasons you don't want children to get involved with marijuana, or anybody else really that cares about themselves. For one, if you smoke marijuana and then all of a sudden you don't have a job and a job offer comes your way, well, guess what? That person who has a job to offer you does a urinalysis test and you've got marijuana in your system, you lose out on a job. So it's a stupid idea for anybody who wants a job. The second thing is marijuana, the potent ingredient in marijuana is THC. Yes. That gets stored in your fatty tissue. That can cause people who are sensitive to it years later to have a bad reaction. It makes them paranoid, for one. They lose their math skills. They lose coordination. They've done all kinds of studies on your motor skills on people who smoke marijuana, and terribly adversely affects them, particularly people who are behind the wheel. Their reaction time is slow. But again, if you even think you go to a party and you go, well, I'm a young carefree kid, and you smoke some, and then a month and a half later, here comes a job opportunity you weren't expecting, and now you can't get it because you can't pass that urinalysis test. So I think it's a totally bad idea, and you're going to have, I hate to say it, but it's hard for me to fathom that they're doing the sanctuary city thing, because you get all kinds of drugs that are going to keep pouring in here, and it's a big temptation when you're young, because when you're young, you're not thinking that clearly. So we have politicians in Chicago who don't know how to solve problems. They're afraid to solve problems. They just want to go with the flow and collect another paycheck, and all these problems are just going to go on and on long after they're gone. But you got to think of these kids, and again, if you okay it, you might bring in a little bit of revenue, but it's going to cause a lot of misery too. So I'm totally against it. Your body is a temple, like it tells you in the Bible. It's a temple of the Holy Spirit. And you're best to stay away from that stuff and find other ways to enjoy your life. Anyhow, you have a great evening, sir.
Well, thank you for your call. And listen, and you offer a certainly great perspective on it. I probably agree 80% of what you said with what you said. But listen, I will say this to you, right? My biggest concern, caller, and thank you for your call. It was a great perspective. The bottom line is, from two standpoints. Yeah, the revenue standpoint with the state and taxing residents, and then the other side of it is the issue with young people having access to it, and even going back to what you said about testing on the jobs, because I guess some jobs even make you blow in a thing for alcohol as a part of a employment screening. So if you went for a screening for your job, they'd also test you for drugs. But even though alcohol is legal, they make you blow in the tube for that as well. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this program. This has been a wonderful show. I will say thank you to all of you that have called. We did get started a little late. Oh, I got a few more minutes I'm getting. So yeah, so I'll continue on and elaborate. I thought I was coming to a close. I got a few more minutes here. A little special dispensation for a few minutes. So anyway, I would just say this to you. I'm not pro nor con on the issue of legalization of marijuana. I think there needs to be a study. However, I think this state is going to come in line with other states who are having revenue issues. And then, as an African-American male, and looking at the number of African-Americans who have been in prison for selling marijuana, I think it's time to at least study the issue. But I'm concerned about young people and young people having access to it. That at the end of the day, that is my major concern. And does it offer an opportunity for young people, like they stand in front of liquor stores and get people to buy liquor for them, and their swisher papers and all that other stuff that goes along with this? Well, hey, listen, it's been a great show. We've come to an end. I thank you all for watching. You've been watching the Grand Boulevard Coalition. I've been your host, Bomani Obadeli. Between now and next week, peace.